Shall we please remain standing as I invite the Catholic chaplain to give us the opening prayer. Okay, shall we pray? Almighty and ever-living God, we thank you for this afternoon. We thank you for the compliment of life. We thank you for everything you've done and you continue to do for us. This afternoon, once again, we've gathered here in your name to perform a very distinct function on behalf of the university. We ask for your presence. We ask for your direction. We ask for everything that we need to get this to be successful. We call on you to present your grace on us, to sprinkle onto us your spirit of discerning and discernment, so that everything we do shall be to the better glory of your name. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Please be seated. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome to the Great Hall of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology this afternoon. We've gathered here looking all handsome, beautiful, and in color for a very unique program that features on the calendar of a globally acclaimed university like KNUST. We are here for the Professorial Inaugural Lecture to be delivered by a distinct professor. And it's the reason for which we would have to observe all protocols and follow the program through till the end. It is a very significant one, but the significance of the program can only be expressed in detail by the registrar of the university. It's my pleasure to welcome the registrar, Mr. Andrew Kwesi Boateng, to give us the significance of this program. A round of applause.
Madam Chair, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, inaugural lectures are one of the most revered university traditions upheld by world-class universities. The lectures symbolize an important achievement in an academic's career, providing official recognition of their promotion or appointment to full professorship. Inaugural lectures, again, offer a rare opportunity for newly appointed professors to introduce themselves and to present an overview of their contributions to their chosen discipline before academic colleagues and research collaborators. The lectures also serve as a platform for celebrating the academic achievements of a newly appointed professor with their families, friends, mentors, and colleagues. The Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Kumasi, in keeping with best practices around the world, has made inaugural lectures a cardinal part of its academic life and experience. As an institution of higher learning with the responsibility to solving societal problems, inaugural lectures again provide us the opportunity to showcase what has been done in terms of groundbreaking research to support national and international development. Some of the distinguished professors who have delivered the inaugural lectures in the university in the past include Professor Dr. George Rekubrobe, the late Professor Kwesi Ankwansa Andam, Professor Kishore Sen, Professor Kwesi Kwafu Adakwa, Professor Francis Boache, Professor Anthony Apeke Adimado, Professor Raphael Kasim Kasanga, Professor Daniel Buo, Professor Mrs. Victoria Pell Jobefia, Professor Richard Tuye Ewa, Professor Abuaji Menye, Professor Robert Kwame Nkum, Professor Charles Kwame Kankam, Professor William Otuelis, and the last but not the least, Professor Robert Clement Abedu. Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen, in keeping with the tradition, the university is privileged once again to witness another inaugural lecture to be delivered by one of its industrious professors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Agyare Konimo. A round of applause for Agyare Konimo. Thank you. To introduce our chairperson for today's Professorial Inaugural Lecture, I'm pleased to welcome the chairperson of the Public Lecture Committee of KNUST. Please welcome Professor Mrs. Olusalua Adebanji.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My apologies, the protocol has not been established. I would have loved to stand on the existing protocol. But let me acknowledge our former vice chancellors, our former pro-vice chancellors, Nananum, dignitaries here present, Madam Vice Chancellor. I would like to read an abridged profile of Professor Mrs. Akosua Rita Dixon, who is going to be the chairperson for this occasion. Professor Rita Akosua Dixon is the current Vice Chancellor of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST. She's the first woman to occupy this position in the history of our university. Prior to her appointment as the Vice Chancellor, she served as the 21st Pro-Vice Chancellor of this university. She was the first to be elected into that position as a woman. Professor Dixon obtained her first degree in pharmacy at KNUST. She went on to pursue postgraduate studies, which culminated in the award of a PhD degree in pharmacognosy, I hope I've got that right, from King's College, University of London. Professor Rita Dixon is an accomplished phytochemist whose scientific knowledge and research expertise has impacted the international scientific community. Our research work spans the identification and development of bioactive natural products as standard medicines for the treatment, management, and management of communicable and non-communicable diseases. And she holds a couple of fellowships, and I'll just mention a few of them. She is a fellow of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, a fellow of the Ghana College of Pharmacists, and she's also a member of the Commonwealth Pharmacists Association, just to mention a few. Madam Dixon is very visible on renowned academic platforms. She has a research impact of over 24,000 article reads and more than 700 citations in various scientific disciplines. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Rita Dixon has also served on several statutory and non-statutory boards and committees within the university, in Ghana, and also at large in the world. Professor Rita Dixon is very passionate about demystifying STEM programs for girls and training youth into global transformational leaders. Our chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, is also a very devout Christian. She's married with 4 lovely daughters and serves as a deaconess and marriage counselor at our church. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to appreciate our chairperson, the Vice Chancellor of our university, Professor Mrs. Rita Akosua Dixon, and she will be presenting the speaker for us. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much, Professor Adebanji. Past Vice Chancellors and Pro-Vice Chancellor, Pro-Vice Chancellor of our university, the Registrar, our distinguished lecturer, Professor Christian Agyare, Provost of colleges and past provost as well, deans and directors, heads of department, colleague members of convocation, senior and junior staff of our great university, Reverend ministers here with us, Nananom, honorable members of parliament, and thank you very much, sir, for joining us, and MMDCs present here, board chairpersons, captains of industry, and chief executive officers present here with us. Past presidents, Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, current president, Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, colleague pharmacists, and all friends of the human race, rectors, family, dear family of our scholar, and friends of Professor Christian Agyare. Proud alumni of the university, my dear students, our friends from the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a very good, is it good afternoon or good evening? I greet you all. It is indeed with great delight and honor that I preside over this very, very important inaugural lecture to be delivered by our esteemed scholar after such a long break. Most definitely, this lecture is of particular significance because it marks the beginning of a series of lectures to be delivered by renowned professors of our great and noble university. By all means, the significance of inaugural lectures in an academic institution like ours cannot be overemphasized. And thank you, Registrar, for helping us to appreciate that. We are very grateful to our distinguished lecturer, Professor Christian Agyare, for setting the ball rolling in this series. I assure you, we have a very, very insightful and invigorating evening ahead of us. So please, just relax and take it all in. Today's lecture is a celebration of a distinguished faculty member of our August University, who has contributed tremendously to research in antimicrobial, wound healing, and anti-inflammatory agents from medicinal plants and natural products. He is very prolific with disseminating his knowledge both at the national and international front, with his contribution to scientific knowledge too numerous to count. He is currently the Provost of College of Health Sciences, and his service to humanity at both local and global levels is indeed exemplary. Aiko, Professor Christian Agyare, congratulations. Do it better, please, please. Thank you, thank you. KNUST is extremely proud of you and your laudable achievements. A great university is deeply honored and proud to associate herself with all that you have worked so hard to achieve, and we all together celebrate you today. Well done. Indeed, we join your family, the Department of Pharmaceutics, Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, College of Health Sciences, all friends and loved ones, and the larger public to honor you today and your immense contribution through this inaugural lecture. We salute you for being the first to start this important series of lectures, and we thank you for that. As we celebrate the lecturer, we also congratulate the College of Health Sciences for setting the pace. Professor Christian Agyare's lecture this evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, focuses and puts the spotlight on the sustained and enduring research work of our esteemed professor over the years in natural products. Now, as soon as I take my seat, our distinguished lecturer will treat us to the topic, treating non-curable infectious diseases and wounds and with natural knowledge and products, the relevance of ethnopharmacological studies. Our lecturer will address the threats posed by the emergence and global spread of drug-resistant pathogens with newly acquired mechanisms with dire consequences on the viability of currently available antimicrobial agents. He will lead us to appreciate the spread of multi-drug resistant microbes that elude the potencies of existing antimicrobial agents, a phenomenon that is getting frighteningly alarming, necessitating the inclusion of antimicrobial resistance indicator in the SDGs monitoring framework. Our distinguished lecturer will, however, be quick to calm us down, and I'll leave that one to him. Our distinguished scholar will give us an intellectual ride through the role of ethnopharmacology in the management and treatment of wounds. He will proceed to touch on pharmacology and cancer treatment and the role of ethnomedicine in the management of microbial infections. Furthermore, our distinguished scholar will lead us to appreciate the role of natural products in the fight against antimicrobial resistance, in which he will open our eyes to antimicrobial use in animal husbandry. He will also touch on mechanisms of modulation of antimicrobial resistance. In ensuring that we have a safe London, a distinguished and eminent lecturer will share with us the way forward in surmounting the obstacles, where he will touch on our level of national preparedness in mitigating the looming threat and call on all of us to action in harnessing our indigenous plants to augment efforts in antibiotic discovery and the fight against antimicrobial resistance. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, with your kind permission, I will now proceed to present our eminent scholar. Professor Christian Agyare, the Provost of College of Health Science, is a professor of pharmaceutical microbiology in the Department of Pharmaceutics, Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, KNUST. He comes from Cornwall in the Asante Bekwai municipality, born to the late Gideon Agyare and Madam Joyce Amwa. He is the fourth and the last child of his parents. He had his basic education at Armed Forces Basic Schools at the 4th Battalion Infantry, and his secondary school education at Prempeh College, Kumasi. He obtained his Bachelor of Pharmacy, BPharm, and MPharm degrees from KNUST. Professor Christian Agyare obtained his PhD from the University of Muenster, Germany, through a German academic exchange service scholarship. And then he had his postdoc at the University of California, USA. Professor Christian Agyare was appointed a lecturer at KNUST in 2003. Promoted to senior lecturer, 2016. Oh, no. Promoted to senior lecturer, 2011. Professor, please forgive me. Associate professor in 2016, and to full professor in 2020. You are sitting down, not clapping. Clap for him, clap for him. It's not a small job. He is a fellow of the Ghana College of Pharmacists and also of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. Professor Agyare is currently, I've said that already, leading the College of Health Sciences as the Provost. Indeed, the search for antimicrobial, wound healing, and anti-inflammatory compounds from medicinal plants and natural products is one of Prof. Agyare's study specialties. He also studies how humans and animals react to antibiotics. He has written over 60 articles for conference proceedings, 100 articles for peer-reviewed journals, and 14 book chapters with other authors, and many more. He has served on editorial boards, too numerous to count. Professor Christian Agyare is married to his beautiful wife, Dr. Mrs. Charlotte Senna Agyare, a pharmacist herself and also the Deputy Director of Pharmaceutical Services and the Managing Director of Life Chemist Limited in Kumasi and Accra. The couple, the lady also deserves some round of applause, you know. Behind every successful man, there is what? Thank you. So do it better for Senna. Do it. Senna, thank you very much. We salute you. Thank you. The couple is blessed with 3 beautiful children, Nanama, Pakweku, and Mamiama. Professor Christian Agyare's full profile, including grants, his service to local and international bodies and agencies, and many more, are all detailed in the brochure. You could also find these on our website. There are too many to really read out this evening, so please help yourself to it. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and I crave your indulgence to do this with a standing ovation. With a standing ovation and a big round of applause, kindly help me welcome our distinguished scholar and lecturer, Professor Christian Agyare, as he takes us through this lecture. Please continue to do it for him. Continue to do it for him.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chancellor. Madam Chairperson and Vice Chancellor, members of the University Council present, Vice Chancellors of sister universities, Pro-Vice Chancellor, Registrar, Finance Officer, colleague Provost, Deans and Directors, Deputy Speaker of Parliament of Ghana and MP for Bekwai, Honorable Osei Wusu, current and former Ministers of State, Presiding Bishop of the Methodist Church, Ghana, Most Reverend Dr. Paul Boafo, Nananom, Reverend Ministers, Honorable Members of Parliament, Board Chairpersons, Chief Executive Officers, President, and members of Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, rectors and registrars, deputy registrars, deputy finance officers, heads of departments, colleague professors and senior members, other members of convocation, senior and junior staff, junior members of the university, distinguished invited guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor and a feeling of profound joy to be standing in front of this August gathering to bring to you the immense milestones achieved in my academic journey. When I was first admitted into this noble institution of ours, I held high hopes for an enviable career in pharmaceutical sciences. But little did I envision that I will end up in academia and rise through the ranks to become a full professor of pharmaceutical microbiology. By dint of hard work, great mentors, and the mercies of God, here am I, delivering a professorial inaugural lecture to the university community, invited guests, and the world at large through the virtual space. Madam Chairperson, as we all know, most science students, especially biology students who want to pursue medicine at the university, and having been one of the best science students in my school at that time, the expectation was that I would pursue medicine. However, by God's own design, I found my way into the Bachelor of Pharmacy program. This was largely as a result of my key interest and excellent performance in chemistry and biology, and the fact that I wanted to become a successful community and retail pharmacist, which at that time was known as the face or the main area of pharmacy practice in Ghana, and also what I thought as the most lucrative area of pharmacy practice. Ladies and gentlemen, as expected, my journey as a pharmacy student began with the baptism of the popular notion and reality. As for pharmacy, some students will go home, others will be withdrawn at the end of the first year or in the course of the program. This notwithstanding, I persevered and by the grace of God completed the Bachelor of Pharmacy program successfully, after which I was invited as a teaching assistant in the Department of Pharmaceutics, specifically in the Pharmaceutical Microbiology section, to assist undergraduate students in their project work, laboratory and practical works, as well as research projects in the department. Ladies and gentlemen, my exposure to research in the final year of my Bachelor of Pharmacy program through undergraduate project work and subsequent service as teaching assistant at the Department of Pharmaceutics served as a prelude for my research career. As you may be aware, any young pharmacist has a competing interest to practice pharmacy in areas such as pharmaceutical marketing and community pharmacy practice, either on permanent or locum basis. I engage in both areas of practice whilst doing my housemanship. However, I realized that my love and interest for research and teaching was unparalleled. This therefore motivated me to pursue the Master of Pharmacy program in pharmaceutics with specialization in pharmaceutical microbiology, which I was able to complete within 2 years schedule. Despite the more lucrative nature of other pharmacy practice areas I had experienced, as already indicated, I still had a strong edge and motivation to pursue a career in research and academia. Fortunately, I was appointed a lecturer in the Department of Pharmaceutics at the Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences immediately after my postgraduate degree, where my professional research career began. Subsequent to my appointment as a lecturer, I decided to focus my research on the search for anti-infective agents, including antibacterial, antiviral, anti-parasitic agents, anti-inflammatory agents, and wound healing agents from natural products, especially medicinal plants, because infections were considered to be prevalent in Africa, as well as wounds with neglected or limited treatment options, for which medicinal plants held a lot of promise based on their folkloric or traditional use. With the abundance of diverse medicinal plants in Ghana, availability of traditional knowledge in the treatment of diseases, and productive research collaborations, my research career has yielded a portfolio containing records for scientific validation of the traditional uses of a number of medicinal plants, isolation of some biologically active antibacterial, antiviral, antiparasitic compounds, elucidation of sources of antimicrobial resistance, and overcoming antimicrobial resistance through antimicrobial resistance modulation studies using ethnomedicine. The search for natural remedies for the treatment and management of some cancers was not left out in my research work. Ladies and gentlemen, in the academic landscape, inaugural lectures are supposed to detail the scope of a discipline engaging by an individual elevated to the status of a full professor. To this end, I'm happy to have you here this day to detail to you my research engagement in ethnomedicine and natural product drug discovery, and then the enormous benefit it has and the potential impact on the scientific community, our immediate community, and the intellectual class in the wider society. Madam Chairperson, I believe that the chosen topic for my inaugural lecture, treating non-curable infectious diseases and wounds with natural knowledge and product, the relevance of ethnopharmacological studies, is important as it showcases to the contribution of ethnopharmacological studies towards overcoming the burden of non-curable infectious disease and wounds in the global guests to achieve Goal 3 of the Sustainable Development Goals, that is good health and well-being. Madam Chairperson, ethnomedicine, I believe, holds a great potential in the fight against both communicable and non-communicable diseases. To this end, I've spent a lot of time and part of my research career exploring the best ways the metabolites or chemical arsenals from medicinal plants can be used and developed as alternative therapies for infectious diseases, wounds, and inflammation. This has been done with a clear understanding of the potential benefits of ethnomedicine in the global fight against stubborn bugs, among others. Madam Chairperson, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, permit me to introduce today's lecture with a fascinating history of wounds, published in 2011. One of the oldest medical manuscripts known to man is a clay tablet that dates back to 2200 BC. The tablet describes, perhaps for the first time, the 3 wound healing gestures or signs: washing the wound, making the plasters, and bandaging the wound. Ancient times reference to plasters is the modern or today's equivalent of wound dressings. In the ancient times, plasters were a mixture of substances including mud or clay, plants, and herbs used to provide protection and absorb exudates from the wounds. Similar to modern medicine, plasters are applied to wounds to provide protection and absorb exudates. Apart from the ancient Greeks stressing the importance of cleanliness of wounds, they also differentiated between fresh or acute wounds and non-healing or chronic wounds. An excerpt from Hippocratic collection on wounds is, and I quote, "For an obstinate ulcer, sweet wine and a lot of patience should be enough," end of quote. Following this quotation, perhaps I should stress that quotations about wound healing are many, and the diversity of philosophical meanings inherent in these quotations is quite revealing about the attitude and the perception of wounds by people over the years. For example, the Italians have a proverb that says, "The tender surgeon makes the wound gangrene." Dennis Floorman also indicated, and I quote, "Your wound is probably not your fault, but the healing is your responsibility." Alice Walker also indicated, and I quote, "Healing begins when the wound was made," unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that some of us graciously present in today's inaugural lecture might not be aware of the incidence and burden of wounds as one of the main health problems worldwide that merits research focus. It will interest you to know that in the year 2018, the global market size for wound care was valued at $18.4 billion United States dollars, and is expected to grow at compound annual rate of 3.9 from 2019 to 2026. With official data from Africa being difficult to find, there are records of over 8.2 million people in the United States suffering from various types of wounds alone, which depicts the importance of systematic drug discovery effort to provide solution for this public health concern. Madam Chairperson, it may interest you to know that literature is full of examples of non-healing wounds, that is chronic wounds, which are usually complicated by inhabitation of resistant microbial strains, coupled with immunocompromised states of some individuals affected by these conditions, and hence the need to find more economic, effective, and culturally acceptable alternatives for the treatment and management of various types of wounds and infections. This is why it is my absolute pleasure this evening to project the importance of ethnopharmacological investigations and findings in this research area through my inaugural lecture. It is my expectation that at the end of my lecture, this August gathering will appreciate, one, ethnopharmacology and ethnobotany and their role in the treatment of wounds and infectious diseases. Two, the reality of antimicrobial resistance and how best to address it through natural products and national policies. Three, the prospect of natural products and their potential role in cancer therapy. And finally, my overall scientific contribution in achieving this expectation as stated above. Ladies and gentlemen, the role of ethnopharmacology in management and treatment of wounds, one neglected area of medicine with serious social and economic consequences, is wound healing. However, in recent times, there has been renewed interest in this field. There is currently proliferation of products such as occlusive dressing and the use of molecular biology techniques by industry with a key interest in profiting from this rapidly growing method and procedure. Arguably, there is no other area of investigation which overlaps with various specialties and subspecialties of medicine as wound healing does. First of all, the defining events in the wound healing process have been logically and arbitrarily chosen. The initiation and the end of the wound healing process is widely based on microscopic assessment. The process is dynamic and technically not wholly elucidated. It can proceed in a timely or untimely manner. These are conveniently and loosely called acute and chronic wounds, respectively. The location, the cause, the age, the physical state of the patients have a significant impact on the classification and the rate of wound healing. The complexity of the wound healing process exposes it to interruption at many different levels and stages. Cellular and physiological factors can be key driving forces in this process. These factors include local factors, that is ischemia, low oxygen supply to the wound site, the presence of foreign bodies, infection, elevated tissue pressure, etc. In addition, systemic obstacles go a long way to impact the healing process with diabetes, age, and the active thyroid conditions where thyroid gland does not produce enough thyroid hormone, being the key force in this regard. Definition of ethnobotany and ethnopharmacology. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to provide definition of some key words in my research area for better appreciation of this lecture. Ethnobotany, a term which was originally applied to the study of relationship between plants and plant environment in primitive setting for medicinal and other purposes, has now evolved into a much wider meaning that covers not only medicinal relationship, but also relationships that include symbolic, ecological, cognitive, and human-plant relationship in modern settings. On the other hand, ethnopharmacology is the interdisciplinary study of the physiological actions of plants, animal, and other substances used in indigenous medicine from past and present cultures. Natural products have served as an important source of drug discovery since ancient times, and about 10% of the useful drugs today are derived from natural products. Ethnopharmacology also describes the traditional use of medicinal plants for the next generations, especially in the developing countries. Almost every year or day, traditional knowledge of medicinal plants decreases without necessarily being transferred to younger people. Therefore, ethnopharmacological studies help to maintain this knowledge, and in this case, show how medicinal plants and other naturally derived compounds are specifically used in the treatment and management of diseases. Ethnobotanical surveys are based on broad spectrum surveys of plants used for a wide range of diseases and illnesses in selected communities. The trend of ethnobotanical surveys have changed from surveys that concentrated on medicinal plants for broad spectrum of diseases to specific disease states and subsequent preliminary screening, that is in vitro, or investigation of some of the plants for acclaimed diseases that are used for folklorist practice. Also, some surveys have concentrated on plants used for the treatment of diseases affecting animals. Madam Chairperson, it can therefore not be overemphasized that immense reservoir of traditional knowledge on medicinal plants can therefore be used for the development of drugs, lead compounds, biological or pharmacological tools, excipients, and nutraceuticals. Compared with libraries of synthetic substances, it is believed that natural products can offer the prospect of discovering greater number of compounds that are beneficial to mankind. Having said this, I have the utmost pressure, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you plants with wound healing potential and isolated compounds with wound healing activity reported in our work. Plants with wound healing potential. Plants from a wide range of families has been extensively exploited as a potential agent for effective wound management. Some families of plants that have produced potential therapeutic benefits include Phyllanthacea, Solanaceae, Euphobiaceae, Uticaceae, Combretaceae, and Rhotaceae. Thanks for the appreciation. Scientific credence has given has been given to the folkloric uses of some of these plants in the management of acute and chronic wounds. Some key findings on the flora across the length and breadth of the country have identified the benefit of Bridelia macranta, Physalis angulenta, Philanthus mullerianus, known in Asante trees as Aobe, Hilaria latifolia, known in Asante tree as Anafranaku, Laportia ovalifolia, known in Asante tree as Acheshewonsa, Compretum macronatum, and Malutus ofutifolia, also known in Asante tree as Nyanyamfro or Pimpim, as potential wound healing plants. Other plants with established wound healing potential are the diverse flora from the Bosomtwi Achuma Kwanguma area of the Asante region. Through interviews and structured questionnaire, traditional healers from about 54 communities alluded to the wound healing benefits of several plants widespread in the Bosomtwi Achuma Kwanguma area. This included 104 plant species belonging to 47 families with their details being documented. The in vitro activity of these plants on cell physiology of keratinocytes and dermal fibroblasts, which are key agents when it comes to wound healing, were investigated. Also, the anti-adhesive activity of these plants against Helicobacter pylori, a bacteria agent implicated in most ulcers, on human stomach cells were also investigated and found to exhibit strong anti-adhesive activity against Helicobacter pylori. 3 plants usually used by herbal practitioners surveyed in their line of work, that is Philanthus mullerianus, Pygnanthus angulensis, Compretum spearmani, were found to have significantly influenced mitochondrial activity and proliferation of dermal fibroblasts and keratinocytes, which are key elements or agents in the wound healing process, as I indicated earlier. Other key findings from the use of flora species in the Bosomtwi Achuma area are indicated on the projector. That is Holsteinidia opposita, locally known as Nunum Nini, exhibited strong anti-adhesive activity against H. pylori. Pygnanthus angulensis, known in Asante tree as Otie, exhibited strong wound healing effects on stomach ulcers. Compretum also has significant influence on cell viability and proliferation of keratinocytes and dermal fibroblasts. Isolated compounds with wound healing benefits. Functional testing of compounds isolated from these plants have been an integral focus of our research into wound healing. We have focused on identifying the principal constituents of plants that account for their primary pharmacological activity. As a result, there has been a massive pool of compounds and leads that could be optimized and developed as a therapeutic agent for the treatment and management of various kinds of wounds. In this drug discovery effort, one of the compounds that have stood out as being effective at modulating skin activity has been the procyanidins. At present, epicatechin, procyanidin B2, procyanidin B5, procyanidin C1, procyanidin D1, and hitherto unidentified oligomeric procyanidins have been isolated and characterized. These compounds have demonstrated significant activity on keratinocytes by moderating cellular proliferation and, again, having effects on the dermal fibroblasts. That is a positive effect on the proliferation of the dermal fibroblast. This observation signifies the potential benefits of these molecules in wound management. Similar therapeutic benefits have also been seen with studies on the potential wound healing activity of polysaccharides isolated from myriad of extracts of plants. Geranium and furosin, well-characterized elagitanins isolated from Philanthus mullerianus, has been widely investigated for their potential wound healing properties. These elagitanins stimulate cellular activity, differentiation, collagen synthesis in human skin keratinocytes, and dermal fibroblasts. These mechanisms are key when it comes to wound healing. So if you have agents that are able to influence these activities, I think these agents has a potential in our healthcare delivery. Taken together, the established wound healing properties of plants from various families of flora across the country is key milestones for further research and development of alternative therapies for chronic and acute wounds affecting people of all ages. Madam Chairperson, in the course of our ethnobotanical surveys to identify and validate medicinal plants used for wound healing application, we also came across the use of medicinal plants in the treatment of cancers and found it as another research area of global health interest. Permit me, therefore, to share a few thoughts on the role of ethnopharmacology and cancer therapy with this august audience. Ladies and gentlemen, cancer is one of the key disease conditions that affects man and a leading cause of death worldwide, accounting for nearly 10 million deaths in the year 2020 and nearly 1 in 6 deaths as published by the WHO in 2020. Examples of cancer include lung, breast, prostate, and colon cancers. It is quite worrying that as at now, most cancers known to man do not have a defined cure or therapy. Unfortunately, the incidence of cancers is increasing in Ghana with insufficient access to sustainable cancer solutions due to low numbers of oncologists and the absence of adapted medical facilities designated for diagnosis and effective treatment of various cancers. These inadequacies have been the bane of accessing timely health care when it comes to cancer treatment in Ghana. Therefore, underprivileged people, especially people from the rural communities, do not receive the necessary care and succumb to their diseases. Besides, the low adherence to conventional therapies, that is biologics or alkaloidal compounds by patients due to unbearable side effects, the therapeutic efficiency of the conventional treatment is usually quite low for effective treatment outcomes, often leading to grim consequences for patients. These drawbacks, as well as somehow failure of modern medicine in the effective treatment of numerous cancers, have contributed to the renaissance of traditional medicine as potential therapeutic option. Currently, about 60% of anti-cancer agents are natural products, with medicinal plants bearing significant fractions of these sources of natural products. In view of the fact that traditional practitioners and healers across the African continent, including Ghana, use variety of natural products to treat perceived cancer cases, it became necessary in my research endeavors to offer some attention to the validation of these traditional practices by providing scientific evidence to the folkloric use. To wit, 85 traditional healers from 10 communities within and outside Asante region of Ghana were surveyed with observed regional differences. In addition, herbal materials identified from these interviews and structured conversations were collected. The Ethnopharmacological survey identified 151 species of plants used by practitioners for treatment of various types of cancer. The most frequently used plants for cancer management by practitioners were Kenya silingalensis, known in Asante Twi as kuntunkri, Triptochiton scleroxylum, also known as wawa, Azadirachta indica, our own neem tree, and Terminalia superbab, 3 of which belong to the family Maliaceae. Plants in this family have been phytochemically characterized to contain mainly liminoids. Madam Chairperson, Physalis anguilenta, locally known as Tototo, and Pakitina negrensis, known in Asante Twi as abakambu, are also 2 plants traditionally touted to possess anti-cancer activity. As a result, Studies on the plant's potential anti-cancer benefits were carried out using 4 cancer cell lines. From these studies, potential cytotoxicity of the ethanol extracts of the plants was established in human carcinoma cell lines in a time and concentration-dependent manner, and was found to have no cytotoxic activity at the concentrations that we worked with, and hence giving credence to the folkloric benefits of the plants as shown in Table 2, as indicated on the projector. With IC50 of Physalis angulenta having a range of 3.86 to 20.16 microgram per liter, and that of Pakitina nigrensis having IC50 of 2.61 to 8.33 microgram per liter. This shows a clear indication that these plants have potential when it comes to cancer management against these 4 cancer cell lines. Astonia boanae, known in Asante Tree as Nyamidua, and Paulinia pinnata, known in Asante Tree as 20, widely found in Ghana, have also been investigated for their potential anti-proliferative activity with 15-hydroxyangulosylobin A, isolated by bioactivity guided fractionation and characterization of the hydroalcoholic extract of the Astonia boanae, and tested and found to be bioactive. The Astonia boanae, Paulinia pinnata extracts and the 15-hydroxyangulosylobin A were shown to cause cell arrest in the G2/M phase, thereby triggering cells into partial apoptosis, which is a good sign when we are searching for anti-cancer agents. Ladies and gentlemen, whilst focusing on exploring anti-cancer properties of medicinal plants, we also kept eyes on mutagenicity studies. This is because mutagenicity is sometimes a precursor for carcinogenicity associated with xenobiotics. With this knowledge, investigations into the potential mutagenicity of herbal products widely consumed was undertaken. A validated questionnaire was administered to 53 herbalists and herbal medicine dealers in Mokola, Medina, and Nima communities in a survey. A total of 110 medicinal plants from 53 families were identified, widely found in the product normally sold to these people in these communities for the treatment of various diseases. Out of these samples or plant materials, 52% of the samples were realized to contain herbal materials which were potential mutagens. This has a significant implication on the safety of these preparations and stimulate further discussion and studies of mutagenic potential of plants used in the treatment of diseases by indigenous people. Madam Chairperson, the fact that our sub-region is endemic with infectious diseases cannot be argued with the decline of synthetic discovery in the antibacterial pipeline. It was a major concern for my research group to investigate other sources, including medicinal plants for antimicrobial and anti-parasitic agents as reserved truths for the emerging war of microbial and parasitic resistance. It is my delight, therefore, to discuss my research contribution to the role of the ethnomedicine in microbial infections. Ladies and gentlemen, infectious diseases have been the affliction of human existence since the inception of medical studies centuries ago. Although the unexpected discovery of penicillin in 1928 may have triggered wider interest in antimicrobial studies across the globe, the experiential knowledge of treatment of wounds and infections with herbal and other natural remedies dates back to ancient times and was widely practiced by the Egyptians, Romans, and the Greeks. For example, honey was widely used in the Middle Ages for the management of post-arrow wounds, whilst the Egyptians and Chinese used moldy bread or moldy soya bean cake for the management of wounds and infections, respectively. The World Health Organization has reported that over 80% of the world's population rely on traditional medicines for their primary health care needs, including the treatment of infections. This therefore underpins our rigorous effort at investigating the anti-infective properties of medicinal plants with the aim of isolating and characterizing anti-infective compounds that may be new to science for further pharmacological development as therapies. Plant family with antimicrobial properties. Madam Chairperson, the antimicrobial activity of plant families such as Cunaraceae, Fabiaceae, Phobiaceae, Compritaceae, Rotaceae, Malvaceae, Aponaceae, Sapiraceae have been widely investigated. To this end, studies have established the antimicrobial activity of plant species such as Synetis, Thuringia, Cyperus deformis, Pollinia pinnata, Philanthus mullerianus, Potilaca aureliaceae against bacterial strains commonly implicated in infections such as boils, carbuncles, typhoid fever, upper respiratory infections, etc. A study conducted to investigate the use of herbal preparations in the treatment of typhoid fever in the Ghana East municipality reviewed their widespread use abide for numerous other conditions. These anti-typhoid formulations were simultaneously recommended for the treatment of malaria, that is about 56%, and jaundice 31%, and various types of pains, including body pains, headache, menstrual pains, 8%, stress, 8%, and fatigue, 8%. All the preparations had more than one plant as their active constituents. 44% contained 2 plant species as their active ingredients. 37% contained 3 to 5 plant species. 13% contained 6 to 10 plant species. And 6 contain more than 10 plant species as their active plant species that occur in these plant products was identified as Carica papaya, our own pawpaw, or Bofre in Asante tree, Morinda lucida, also known in Asante tree as Conchroma, Citrus orientifolia, Vernonia amygdalina, also known in Asante tree as Ojumo, and Agyare indica, that is our neem tree. In total, 34 different plant species belonging to 25 families were found to be present in these products. There has been a reported anti-helminthic activity associated with plants such as Abysia thuringiana and Electrophyllum amvarensis. In a survey, a validated questionnaire were administered to 50 traditional healers in the Asante region of Ghana. Interviews and structured conversations were used to obtain relevant information. 35 plant species were recorded for use in humans and 6 plants used for the treatment of various parasitic diseases in animals. The most frequently used plant material was the seed, again, of Carica papaya, that is pawpaw, which were mentioned by nearly all the healers. 9 species of the plant which were not described in literature for these indications were investigated for in vitro activity with scientific evidence of this folkloric use being established. Another separate ethnobotanical survey was performed to document medicinal plants in the management of malaria in the Bosomtwe and Sechere East District of Asante region in comparison with plant ingredients in herbal anti-malaria remedies registered by the Food and Drugs Authority of Ghana. 203 herbalists from 33 communities within these 2 districts were interviewed about the medicinal plants they use in the treatment of malaria. Compared to citations from literature, 12.2% species were reported for the first time for the treatment of malaria, and then 20.4 other plants used for malaria treatment were reported for the first time in Ghana. 23 finished marketed herbal products studied contained area or underground parts of the 29 of the plants recorded in our survey as ingredients, which was very significant. Therefore, the study provided new additions to the inventory of medicinal plants used for the treatment of malaria. The study also reported on the commercial availability of anti-malaria herbal products and the need for regulation and monitoring of these marketed products in Ghana. Other natural resources with antimicrobial properties. Over the years, it has been realized that mushrooms are a rich source of potential antimicrobial agents. Consequently, a study focused on investigating the antimicrobial activities of extracts of species of mushrooms such as Trimetis gibbosum, Trimetis elegans, Pseudophyllum communis, Variella bovesi were conducted. These species showed significant bacteriostatic activity against tested organisms and pointed to the potential antimicrobial compounds in them. Antimicrobial compounds from natural products. In a bioassay guided fractionation and isolation of compound, there was a discovery of 2 new scalarian cystaterpenes and 2 triterpenes from 2 mushroom species, namely Pleurotus aureatus, which is edible, and Scleroderma aureliatum, collected from Ghana. The 4 compounds exhibited IC values of 1.65 to 7.63 micromolar against Plasmodium falciparum, which is an agent or parasite responsible for malaria, and 5.04 to 13.65 micromolar against Trypanosoma cruzi, a parasite, and also exhibited non-toxic activity against Hep G2 Timora human cancer cell lines. This represents the first reported cystaterpenes belonging to the scalarian structural class from terrestrial sources. Xylopic acid and guarani, which are naturally abundant in Xylopia ethiopica, known in Asante tree as Rentia, and Philanthus mullerianus, known in Asante tree as Awobe, respectively, have been identified to exhibit activity against Entomobia histolytica, which is a parasite. A separate study also showed that guarani from Philanthus mullerianus, ellagic acid, gentisic acid, gallic acid from Anodiosis leucarpus, also known as African beech, or the Asante tree as Osakania, significantly inhibited the proliferation of Plasmodium falciparum, which was very important in our research work. Madam Chairperson, whilst we're in search for alternative therapies from medicinal plants to combat microbial infections, the abundant literature on the emerging menace of microbial resistance to existing microbial agents was not ignored. We therefore kept our research lens on identifying the various sources that could contribute to the development of antimicrobial resistance locally, and how natural products can be used to modulate antimicrobial resistance for improved therapeutic outcomes. For this purpose, we investigated the antimicrobial use in aquaculture, animal husbandry, and poultry, as well as the quality of selected antibiotics on Ghanaian market. Ladies and gentlemen, antimicrobial resistance is the ability of microorganisms to persist or grow in the presence of drugs designed to kill or inhibit their growth. Therefore, in a sense, antimicrobial resistance occurs when the bacteria and other microbes adapt and become less susceptible to the pharmacological treatment or intervention being offered. The consequences is increased risk of disease spread, severe illness, prolonged stay in hospital with added economic and social costs, and death ultimately. It is estimated that the antimicrobial resistance causes about 700,000 deaths annually around the world, and all countries in this world are potentially affected. The death toll, it is believed, could hit 10 million per annum by the year 2050 if the problem is not properly and adequately addressed. As a result of this, the World Health Organization has instituted the Global Antimicrobial Resistance and Use Surveillance System, abbreviated as GLASS, as of 2015 to promote the surveillance of antimicrobial resistance and antimicrobial use and consumption throughout the world to inform strategies to contain antimicrobial resistance, for which 109 countries and territories have already signed up. Therefore, antimicrobial resistance has been described as a global threat to humanity that must be addressed head-on from the perspective of the WHO as one of the top 10 public health threats with severe impact on the economies of all nations. Due to the above, the WHO has tabled numerous strategies to combat resistance to antimicrobial agents. One such strategy entails the use of combination therapies to help evade the resistance offered by the microorganisms to the administered antimicrobial agent. To this end, our work has investigated the use of phytochemicals as potent inhibitory agents against some of the most worrying microorganisms that we get exposed to. Some of these plant-derived compounds and extracts, either alone or in combination with orthodox chemotherapeutic agents, have been demonstrated to enhance antimicrobial activity against a wide range of organisms. However, potential side effects of these combinations of antimicrobials and phytochemicals require further studies. In addition, we also monitored the natural sources of agents used in infection management that can lead to observed antimicrobial resistance. Madam Chairperson, I have the pleasure in presenting to you my noble audience some of the findings regarding potential sources of antimicrobial resistance development in our country, Ghana. Antimicrobial use in animal husbandry and their implications. Ladies and gentlemen, many of the antibiotics used in animal husbandry are also essential medicine for use in humans. Residual levels of these antibiotics in animals, poultry, and fish products, water bodies, and the environment are potential sources for the development of microbial resistance. However, only a handful of studies address this area of research. To this end, a cross-sectional survey using questionnaire and semi-structured interviews was conducted among 400 poultry farmers in the Asante region and the former Brong-Ahafo region and Greater Accra regions, where the poultry industry is very huge. Farmers reported the use of 35 different antimicrobial agents for the management of various conditions such as Newcastle, fowl pox, coccidiosis, coryza infections in their farms. From these agents, 20 essential antibiotics belonging to 10 antibiotic classes were identified. The most frequently used antibiotics were tetracyclines, 24.17%, aminoglycosides, 17.87%, penicillin, 16.51%, fluoroquinolones, 10.55%. Only 63% of the farms completed the recommended duration of antibiotic course, which was worrying. 58% of them indicated that they do follow the recommended withdrawal period, and 88% of the farmers sought veterinary advice prior to antibiotic administration. It was observed from the study that the farmers had easy access to antimicrobial agents and antibiotic-related information from veterinary offices, vet chemical stores, and mobile salesmen. These findings call for stricter regulations on access to and use of antibiotics on poultry farms in Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, water is important to the survival of animals and plants in general. Although the extensive study report on water quality for drinking purpose in humans, not much has been done in the area of water use in animal farming. The resistant pattern of bacterial isolates of drinking water used in poultry production in the Asante region was investigated. The study revealed that water used in poultry farms were sources of multi-drug resistance, including Escherichia coli, Salmonella typhi, Staphylococcus aureus, and coagulase-negative staphylococci, which are responsible for various forms of bacterial infections in both humans and animals. Salmonella typhi, Staphylococcus aureus, coagulase-negative staphylococci were recovered from or isolated from 31%, 36%, 64%, and 19% of the samples, respectively. Most of these isolates were resistant to cephalosporins and penicillins. Almost 95% of the bacterial isolates were multi-drug resistant. Total coliforms and fecal enterococci were present in 97% of the samples and 56% of the samples, respectively. Escherichia coli, Salmonella typhi, and Staphylococcus aureus and non-coagulase Staphylococcus aureus were isolated from the 4 samples. That is the same sample in which all the 4 different bacterial agents were isolated from. From these findings, measures should be taken to make these various sources of water safe for use in animal husbandry, as well as waters used as a potential source of pathogenic and resistant bacterial strains which can cause infections in the animal and animal farm workers. In a similar study carried out in some fish farms in the Asante region, there was varying resistance to more than 60% of the antibiotics studied. These antibiotics included penicillin, tetracyclines, sulfonamides, macrolides, cephalosporins, quinolones, and chloramphenicol. The bacteria isolated from fish farms exhibited multi-drug resistance, although farmers reported no recent use of antibiotics on their farms, which was very worrying. On a positive note, a separate study was carried out to evaluate some fish farming practices among catfish and tilapia farmers, the fish that we all like, that can also contribute to antibiotic resistance. Validated questionnaires were administered to 63 fish farmers and 9 fishery officers in 6 zones in the Asante region. 73 of the farmers claimed that they did not use antibiotics on their farms. 3 farmers, that is 4.8%, used tetracycline in their fish farms, whilst 2 hatchery farmers added antibiotics, either chloramphenicol or tetracycline, to their fish feed. Almost 94% of the respondents used manure in their fish farms. These manure are obtained from poultry manure from commercial poultry farms, and they use it to fertilize their fish ponds. Most of the fish farmers interviewed do not use antibiotics on their farm. Practices such as the use of manure and the disposal of untreated waste can also contribute to the antibiotic resistance on the fish farms in Ghana. Probable drug quality and implication on the observed antimicrobial resistance. Madam Chairperson, as earlier mentioned, the quality of antibiotics on the Ghanaian market was suspected as one of the sources of microbial resistance development. A survey on penicillins conducted on selected Ghanaian markets to determine their quality reveal interesting results. Out of the 54 samples evaluated, 61.1% were within the British Pharmacopoeia and the United States Pharmacopoeia monograph specifications. The biological assay, however, revealed higher minimum inhibitory concentrations values for all the evaluated penicillins samples compared to the reference samples. Among the samples evaluated include amoxicillin, which showed a better quality of 82.8% compared to flucloxacillin with 31.3% and cloxacillin with 44.4% of the samples. Therefore, efforts must be made to improve antimicrobial stewardship in the country, including aggressive post-market surveillance of these antibiotics on the market. Prior to the identification of poor quality antibiotics in the drug supply chain in the country, a study was conducted in 3 hospitals in Kumasi in the Asante region, and antimicrobial resistant patterns were realized in the strains of Staphylococcus aureus, a resistant challenging organism for medical science. A total of 109 Staphylococcus aureus isolates were obtained from wound and nose swab from 300 patients. Vancomycin recorded the highest solubility of 74.1%, followed by ceftriaxone with 67.6%, erythromycin with 49%, ampicillin with 47%, and gentamicin with 44.4%. Of the 109 Staphylococcus aureus isolated from these 3 hospitals, 32.1% exhibited multi-drug resistance, which was very worrying. A similar study that looked at potential drug resistance in Escherichia coli infections revealed that most of the E. coli isolates, that is 90.7%, exhibited resistance to ampicillin, while 6.2 and 3.1% show intermediate and sensitive responses, respectively. To cotrimazole, also known as Septrin, 78.4% of the isolates were resistant, whilst 9.3 and 12.4 exhibited intermediate and sensitive responses, respectively. The E. coli isolates, that is 28.6 to 46.4%, were resistant to gentamicin, ciprofloxacin, and ceftriaxone, whilst 14 to 47% gave intermediate responses. Most isolates, that is 80.4%, exhibited multi-drug resistance. There is increasing resistance to antibiotics used in Ghana, and it is necessary to develop a definite policy to reduce this pattern. With the observed microbial resistant pattern in our previous studies, ladies and gentlemen, it became imperative for our studies to focus on the ways of crushing the resistance of microbes to antimicrobial agents. Modulation of antimicrobial resistance. To address this challenge, one key strategy adopted was the investigation of the ability to modulate the efficacy of conventional antibiotic agents using phytochemicals and plant extractives. The use of the extract antibiotic combination and interruptions demonstrated the antibiotics that were not active when used alone became active in the presence of some of the plant extracts. These observations were made for the combination of orthodox agents with extracts from Clerodendron splendens, Cyperus esculentus, known in Asante tree as Agyare, Duranta pumieri, Kigeria africana, also known in Asante tree as Nufu, Thene, Kilianga brevifolia, Momodica cherentia, also known in Asante tree as Nyanya, Philanthus amaros, Pygnathus angulensis, Sycamore afzeli, Hilaria latifolia, and Tuja occidentalis. The sub-inhibitory concentration of cerevisterol isolated from the fungus of Trimatis have also been established to modify the activity of erythromycin, ampicillin, ceprofloxacin, tetracycline, and amoxicillin. This component potentiated the in vitro activities of these antibiotics against tested organisms. However, a study conducted on the modulating potential of leaf and fruit extracts of Myristica fragrans, also known as nutmeg, showed that the enhanced resistance of the selected microorganisms against tested antimicrobial agents. From these observations, it is worth noting that not all antimicrobial plants have the potential to reduce the resistance microorganisms have to antibiotics. In addition, some herbal preparations may be contributing to the worrying trend of antimicrobial resistance due to the mirage of plant materials and unrestrained consumption by the populace. Professor Chair, the way forward. The daunting task of curbing the worrying trend of antimicrobial resistance is one of which we try to make contributions to. We can do so through our research, our deeds, and public education. Plants and other natural products do offer some hope in reducing antimicrobial resistance as well as non-curable infectious diseases. They must therefore be embraced and further exploited if we desire to win this battle. However, we must be on the side of caution and also intensify public education to curb the unrestrained use of drugs, be it natural products or orthodox, in the management of infections, since we do not know the dangers associated with this chemotherapeutic use. Efforts must be made to stringently control access to antimicrobial agents that could be a savior of mankind from the microbial apocalypse through the combined efforts of regulators, prescribers, pharmacies, and dispensary outlets. Also, I strongly believe Ghana needs to have a well-defined policy direction and intensify the antimicrobial stewardship agenda. Furthermore, regulatory bodies must intensify surveillance to ensure that antimicrobial products on the market are of the required standard and are properly handled, prescribed, and used by all relevant stakeholders, including Food and Drugs Authority, Ghana, Pharmacy Council, pharmaceutical manufacturers and importers, distributors, clinicians, prescribers, pharmacists, technicians, pharmacists, etc. Lastly, policies must be formulated to incorporate some standardized herbal creams and ointments in wound management as part of the essential medicines list in our healthcare facilities. This will be a welcoming addition to the existing treatment option highlighted in our treatment guidelines and may offer financially competitive edge over existing orthodox options. In conclusion, I would like to quote a saying in the good book from Ezekiel 47 verses 12 that says, and I quote, "On the banks on both sides of the river there will grow all kinds of trees for food. Their leaves will not wither or their fruits fail, but they will bear fresh fruit every month because the water from them flows from the sanctuary. Their fruit will be for food and their leaves for healing." Unquote. Thank you very much. Plant and plant products or phytochemicals have been ordained for healing since creation. Their rational application can be key in the management of man's infirmities. Plants therefore hold a place in our fight against infections and antimicrobial resistance menace. Therefore, I call on individuals, researchers, healthcare regulators, health professionals, and policymakers engaged in this fight to have a strategic look at the role of ethnomedicine in healthcare delivery. Professor Chairperson, kindly permit me to acknowledge and appreciate the following persons and groups and bodies for their various contributions and help in my personal, family, academic, and entrepreneurship life. First, I want to acknowledge my wife, my beautiful wife, Sana, for the massive support, encouragement, especially in difficult times, and also my children, Nanama, Pakwaku, and Mamiama, for their various supports. I also acknowledge the various roles played by my adopted children, Emmanuel, Eric, Francis, and Kelvin. I would also like to acknowledge the various contributions since my childhood from my extended family in Kumasi and Cornell, of which some of them are here in this auditorium. I would like to appreciate my late father, Gideon Agyare, and my mother, Madam Joyce Amua, who is in this auditorium, for their various Maybe can you stand for them to appreciate you? Thank you very much. I would like to appreciate them for their various investment in our education, discipline, and nancy that they instilled in us. I also appreciate my siblings in the person of Professor Kwesi Agyare in the US, Godfred Apia Agyare, and Mrs. Christiana Agyare Ofori for their various contributions since our childhood and up to now. Professor Che, unfortunately for me, I don't have nephews. I have nieces that I have to acknowledge them. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge Gertrude and her sisters, Kezia and her sisters, Inshra and her sisters. I would also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the various roles and assistance from my mother-in-law in the person of Mrs. Grace Kuma, who would like to be here, but due to unforeseen reasons, she wasn't able to join us. I also acknowledge my in-laws, Ernestina, Vida, Vivian, and Noel, University community. Professor Chair, I would like to appreciate you, Professor Rita Kosua-Desing, for the support, encouragement, and assistance. Since I was appointed as a lecturer in the Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Science, in which at a point in time you were the head of the department, dean, and Provost, and then by the grace of God, you ended up as the first female vice chancellor. I would also like to acknowledge the significant impact from the past vice chancellors, including Professor Kwesi Obrid, and so Professor W.O. Ellis, Professor K.K. Adakwa, the late Professor Kwesi Andam, and Professor J.S.K. Ayim for their various roles that they've played in my life on campus. I would like to also appreciate the role of the current Provost in the person of Professor Ellis Usudabo and the past vice chancellors, past pro-vice chancellors for the various roles that they've played in my academic journey. I would like to also appreciate the current registrar in the person of Andrew Kwesi Boateng and past registrars for their various roles that they played. I acknowledge the finance officer, Mr. Yaudimobafo, and the past finance officer for the assistance that they've been offering to me, even as a provost of the College of Health Sciences. Let me take this opportunity to also appreciate the foundation provost of the College of Health Sciences in the person of Emeritus Professor Kwame Sapon for the various roles that he played during the inception of the college. I would also like to appreciate Professor Peter Donko, Professor Chiri Agbenyega, and Professor Jawadusa Akwadie for the various contributions that they've made in my life on campus. Professor Chair, let me take this opportunity to also appreciate the present and past college registrars and finance officers at the College of Health Sciences, and also the current dean and past deans of Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Science, and also my current head of the department and past heads of department of Faculty of Pharmacy, heads of Department of Pharmaceutics, Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, and also the present and past staff of the Department of Pharmaceutics. I would also like to acknowledge the significant role of postgraduate and undergraduate students in my research work in the department. Let me take this opportunity to also appreciate the present and past senior members of the Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, KNUST-TEK. I also appreciate the present and the past staff of the Provost Office, College of Health Sciences, and that of the past and present staff of the Quality Assurance and Planning Unit, of which I serve as the immediate head of that office, the immediate past of the head of that office. Professor Chair, religious personalities. You can't do all this without the intervention of the Almighty God, and Almighty God works through people. I take this opportunity to appreciate the significant role being played by the presiding bishop of the Methodist Church in the person of Most Reverend Dr. Paul Boafo. Again, I appreciate the current bishop of Kumasi Diocese and past bishops of Kumasi Diocese, and that of the present bishop of FGCPharm Diocese. Professor Chair, I take this opportunity to also recognize the contribution in my life and that of my family of the current Superintendent Minister of Kwadaso Circuit in the person of Right Reverend Heford Edusi Poku and past Superintendent Ministers, including Right Reverend Moses Kwesint, Very Reverend Samuel Kwaku Poku, Very Reverend Gosenamam Kwam Ponsa, and Very Reverend J.B. Dankwa for the various roles that they played in my life. I can't do this by acknowledging the leaders of the church, of which I'm part of it, and members of the Bethel Methodist Church at Kwadaso. I'm also taking this opportunity to recognize the leadership and members of the Men's Fellowship, of which I've learned a lot from them. Professor Chair, I would like to acknowledge some of my mentors and professional bodies. Let me take this opportunity to recognize the significant role that Dr. Yao Jumofokuo and his family and that of J.K. Kwache had on me since I was appointed as a lecturer in the university, and I'm happy they are all here to witness this milestone. They still continue to serve as my mentor, even as a provost, although they are not in active service. I'm grateful. I take this opportunity to also recognize the contribution from Professor Ibokodro and Professor Melin Mensah in the Department of Herbal Medicine for the various advice and counsel that they've been offering to me. I take this opportunity to also recognize my research group, named as Agyare Research Group, and the members are Professor Francis Edu, Professor Emmanuel Opombequin, Dr. Vivian Esiepabuama, Dr. Yaudu Abuache, Dr. Newman Osafo, Dr. Teresa Apiagana, and others. You can't do all this unless you have friends and mates who can also assist you in terms of connections and collaboration. I take this opportunity to recognize the 1999 Pharmacy Year Group and also the current president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana in the name of Farm Samuel Donko and past presidents who are here in this auditorium and also members of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. I also recognize the role of Dr. Isaac Charles Noble Morrison, the president of the Society of Private Medical and Dental Practitioners in my life. Also, the fellows and members of the Ghana College of Pharmacists, past and current rectors of Ghana College of Pharmacists, 1993 year group of Prempeh College known as Amanfoɔ, and also corporate and entrepreneurship mentors and benefactors that I have. All of them are here. I recognize your role in my entrepreneurship life and even academic life, because they also help us with getting networking or collaborators. At this time, I would like to acknowledge the founding agencies, including the DAD, that is the German Academic Exchange Service, and that of the German Research Council, DFG, for the various funding opportunities that they've offered me, and also my collaborators in Germany, United Kingdom, United States, Switzerland, South Africa, Nigeria, Cameroon, Sudan, and sister universities and research institutions in Ghana. Madam Chairperson and Vice Chancellor, members of the University Council, Pro-Vice Chancellor, Registrar, Finance Officer, colleague Provost, Deans and Directors, representative of the Asante Regional Minister, Presiding Bishop of the Methodist Church, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Reverend Ministers, Honorable Members of Parliament, Nananom, Deputy Registrar, Deputy Finance Officers, Heads of Department, colleague professors, senior members, and other members of convocation, senior and junior staff, junior members of the university, members of the press, and distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, my immeasurable gratitude goes to you for sharing in my thoughts and for your time. Thanks for listening, and God bless us all.
Please be seated. We just heard Professor Christian Agyare deliver his professorial inaugural lecture on the topic treating non-curable infectious diseases and wounds with natural knowledge and products, the relevance of ethnopharmacological studies right here in the Great Hall. A round of applause once again. I guess we've learned a lot. It is from this lecture that I heard Philatesi, Solanesi, Euphobesi, Eutychesi, Combretesi, and Rutesi. Or they won't ask you, Ashwebi. A distinguishing feature in this public lecture, inaugural lecture, of the university is the physical transformation from whom you've known him to be in academia into a different realm. And we will do this by taking off his current robe, which for us will be termed old, and then he will be robed in a very beautifully designed one for this purpose. For this, I will respectfully invite our Vice Chancellor, Professor Mrs. Rita Akosua-Dixon, Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor Eliso Usudabo, Registrar, Mr. Andrews Kwesi Boateng, and Chairperson of the Public Lecture Committee, Professor Atinuke Adebanji, to do the robing. A round of applause to Professor Christian Agyare. Thank you very much, VC. Thank you, Pro VC. Thank you, Registrar. And thank you, Chairperson of the committee. Prof is not going yet. Now, the main person behind him who did all the work, which he came to present to our hearing, he has acknowledged already. But we'll find a different way to acknowledge her, so she will be the only person to be given the opportunity to present a gift to the husband. Please welcome Dr. Mrs. Charlotte Senna Agyare. Thank you very much, Madam. Thank you. Prof, you will still be here, and all those on our front rows, made up of our former vice-chancellors, our former pro-vice-chancellors, and members of the clergy. Just the first row will come and shake his hands. They will be followed by all full professors of the university, and then they will be followed by all provosts and directors. And then the last group will be all professors who have had their inaugural lectures, those who have delivered their inaugural lectures. So I will begin with all our distinguished personalities on the front row. I see Professor Peter Donko, Professor Charles Sansan, former Vice-Chancellor JSK Ayim, Professor JSK Ayim. Okay, so that's Professor Peter Donko, former Pro-Vice-Chancellor KNUST. There's Professor Charles Sansan, former Pro-Vice-Chancellor. Professor JSK Ayim, former Vice-Chancellor KNUST. Professor Kwesi Kwafu Adakwa, former Vice-Chancellor. Former Vice-Chancellor, Professor Kwesi Obri Danso. So we'll continue. Representing the regional minister is Ms. Gloria Gambra. Nana Bafo Eje Fusu Otumfo Ananta Hene will join. Our Honorable MP for Bekwai and First Deputy Speaker, Republic of Ghana's Parliament. Nana Mensa Bonsu, Chief of Asechi Asante Bekwai, Professor Edward Bedu. Of course, Most Reverend Dr. Paul Boafo, Presiding Bishop, Methodist Church of Ghana. Right Reverend Kenneth Otin Dapa, Methodist Bishop, FGCPharm Diocese. Thank you very much. All right, so our next batch of people to congratulate him will be all full professors in the university, of course, joined by all provosts and directors. So please file and shake his hand if you are here. Including all professors who have not delivered their inaugural lectures yet. Now do watch something. The last person shaking Prof is the last person who actually delivered his inaugural lecture. Professor R.C. Abedu. Okay, so now Prof will be ready now to receive gifts that you have brought to him. We'll begin with reps from College of Health Sciences. Please proceed to present your gift. And I'm sure members of the Men's Fellowship, you did not come empty-handed. So, get ready. As for the church, we can excuse the church. But for the Men's Fellowship, you have to present something. Okay, so Ms. Lucy Diewo is the registrar of the college, Mr. Charles Insian, finance officer of the college, helping to deliver the gift on behalf of the college to their provost. Do we have the men's fellowship coming? I should hold on. Okay, there is one coming. Let's get that one done and then we'll move on. I'm sure this is on behalf of Quality Assurance and Planning. Oh, okay, so I can tell. Prophet Agyare was a former head of our Quality Assurance and Planning unit then. So, thank you very much. Thank you. Amanfo. Is Amanfo coming? Men's Fellowship says I should hold on. It looks like they are now collecting their cash to put together. So, we'll pause here and take those donations on the table when we are done. Okay, so I see another one coming. All right, so Dr. Morrison is presenting on behalf of the board of NHIA. A round of applause. Thank you very much. All right, class of 1999, pharmacy. And mate of Prophet Agyare. Now I see the gifts coming in small envelopes. So on behalf of Kwadaso Circuit of the Methodist Church, a presentation is being. And then Prempeh College student. A round of applause. They have come for motivation to deliver their inaugural lecture one day in future. All right, thank you very much. All right, thank you very much. I think it's fair to pause here. Thank you very much, Prophet Agyare. Thank you once again, Agyare Konimo. We are wrapping up on the program, and I believe it's fair to say the speaker duly executed the acknowledgement function of the MC. So I will stand on his acknowledgement to say it's exhausted. I, however, have two names, members of the University Council. Dr. Kweku Agbesi is the president of the Global Alumni Association of KNUST. Thank you for coming. And then Mr. Suleiman Zakaria Yeboah, also a member. Thank you very much for coming. An announcement for all students who are here, please remain for refreshments, and for the rest of us, we'll go to the senior staff clubhouse for our refreshment. Shall we please rise for the closing prayer to be said by Reverend Father Dr. Antonina.
Our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth. Almighty and ever-living God, we are so much grateful to you for the gift of our lives. We thank you for what we have witnessed today, your blessings, your favors, ingenuity, excellence. You have granted to one of our own, Professor Christian Agyare, and he has given us his inaugural lecture, symbolizing that you have greater things to accomplish through him for humanity. We thank you for the gift and life of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. We thank you for our 70 years of existence of global impact. And this is also a clear evidence of the impact we are making all over the world. For all these blessings, we say thank you. As we thank you for gathering us for this important occasion, so do we entrust ourselves to you even as we depart from here, that you lead us to our destination safely and sound. May all that we have witnessed here be a source of encouragement, enlightenment for us in our life. And may your blessings and favors be upon us. We pray for such greater blessings, and may you continue to inspire us in all we do. These and many blessings we ask through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, God forever and ever. Amen.
Please remain standing for the university anthem. Lift every voice and sing.